Well, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show, as we do every Monday night at this time, 7 p.m. British, Irish time. We're on the same timeline, and whatever time it is where you are. So if you'd like to send in some comments on the show or previous shows, or you'd like to ask some questions, you're more than welcome to. There's a little thing down on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Just swipe that across and you can leave a comment. And even after the show closes, you can keep your comments coming into the Facebook page and I will get around to them. Delighted to have Keith Hackett with us again. Little bit of problem last week, Keith. Here you were hacked.
So I was.
What the hell was going on there?
Don't know. Second time in a month. So it was, I lost a lot of contacts this time.
Oh, did you? Wow.
And I lost all my emails. And
oh, my goodness.
Fortunately, the server, I sort of wrote and got an instant response. And then I got something like 1,600 emails resurrected. So they've gone back as several months. So it took me half a day to get rid of them. And then one of the other things was I lost some of the contacts. But I think we're over the problem now. Hopefully.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Just a couple of things, Keith. I noticed a lot is going on, and I wanted to discuss it with you last week, but unfortunately, you couldn't come on because of that hacking, and thankfully now it's resolved. But this whole thing about crowding around referees when they make a decision, and obviously it's the team who has been penalized. They're the ones who are going to crowd the referee. I mean, it's just getting to ridiculous proportions now. And I'm just going to highlight it. And this goes way back. And I've shown this photograph before. And this was during a Man United game.
Yeah.
The unfortunate referee there is Andy D'Urso. And in the picture is Roy Keane, Jaap Stam, and Nicky Butt. And just out of that photograph, actually, is David Beckham. Now, that sort of thing is just... I mean, that's thuggish behavior. That shouldn't be allowed.
Well, I'm amazed. I think that the Premier League will always want to protect its image. These images that are flashing around the world when referees are being mobbed, surrounded, are damaging their image. So, for one, they should do something about it in the first place.
But they won't, Keith. You know that.
No,
we've been hung out to dry.
Yeah.
Since time immemorial, you know.
Yeah.
The referee is always the whipping boy.
Yeah. I think from a refereeing point of view, and hopefully Howard Webb has now got his feet under the table a month into the job. I think he's got to get together with the competition, with the leagues, with the League Managers Association and with the Professional Footballers Association. And he's got to say, look, we're now going to go on a path. And I hate using the word clampdown because clampdown lasts about 6 weeks. But I do genuinely think that I put in place with the full agreement of those organizations that if 3 or more players surrounded a referee, that would be the report of an exceptional incident, would go to the FA, and the FA would then charge the clubs with failing to control their players. So the first thing is, has that been watered down? Is that no longer in existence? The second point is that the laws of the game protect the referee in these situations. 1, dissent. 2, delaying the restart are all aspects that the laws actually will support the referee if the referees get a little bit firmer. It's no good smiling. How much talking do we do? But at the moment, I think it's out of control. And I think we're seeing it far too often. And of course, it's cascading down and kids are doing it in the local parks. So it's making life very tough for grassroots referees. Howard Webb's got to grip it. I think ultimately at the end of the day, this is happening every week, and this is happening in several games over the weekend. You know, we saw it in the Manchester United Crystal Palace game, where that resulted in a red card.
Yeah.
You know, the player put his hands round the neck of an opponent. It's football. It's not rugby. And neither is it murder. But at the end of the day, you have to respond to that. And he's responded with a red card. So he's gone. But that doesn't detract from the fact that there were a pile of players in there. And as a result, I'd be very disappointed if the Premier League and the FA do not charge both those clubs, Manchester United and Crystal Palace, for failing to control their players. Now we get to the Arsenal-Everton game where, again, we saw the surrounding of the referee. No reason why they shouldn't be charged either. And let me tell you, this will be the third within the last 6 or 7 weeks, the third sort of instance. So the deterrent that they're putting out, whatever it is not strong enough. A fine of 15,000, 20,000 is
I mean,
peanuts.
that's only pocket money, you know.
We've got to have some form of deterrent, and the first line of deterrent has to be, I think, moving towards a scenario in the future where points are deducted off the teams for these types of actions.
Yeah, you've got to really hit them where it hurts. Yeah.
Well, I had the Manchester United Arsenal blow-up, mass confrontation. It lasted 16 seconds. There were 21 players involved in a mass brawl. I sat back and thought to myself, I'm a reasonably fair guy. Which one do I send off? Because I could have sent all 21 off, and that would have ruined the spectacle. The outcome, however, was that I put in a very detailed report. The FA put in a really, the panel was chaired by Jeffrey Thompson, who did a splendid job because both the teams were deducted points. And let me tell you, for a few weeks afterwards or months afterwards, neither of those teams were involved in a mass confrontation. So it said to me it worked.
Yeah, you see, and that's that's what's required. I mean, £15,000 is nothing. I mean, it's not even a pound to you and I in comparison. No. So
correct.
The other thing is that the not blowing for every little thing that happens on the field. Now I've noticed that players are going down looking for. I mean, some of it is so blatant and so obvious. They're getting touched and they're falling over, and that they know that I mightn't get a free kick, so they immediately grab the ball. Now, to me, that's a handball and a yellow card for feigning injury. But referees are not doing that, Keith. What?
No.
I mean, why don't they have the strength and the backbone to really punish these? And I think the referees need to get together. I know they fall under the FA as referees do in every country. They fall under the Football Association of that country. But they really need to get together to clamp down on this kind of behavior. And they just don't either have the will or the guts or the backbone, or they're worried about the repercussions from the players, from the managers, from the spectators, whatever, even from the FA. They shouldn't have to be worried like that. And I think they are. I'm scared that if they're too strong and if they're too strict, they won't get a game in next week's appointment.
Remember that we're dealing in the Premier League with professional referees, Errol. Yeah. And they are employed by the PGMOL. The PGMOL...
Wait, can I just stop you there, Keith?
Yes.
Now, how independent and how autonomous are the PGMOL? They still report to the FA, don't they?
Well, I'm trying to explain... I'm trying to explain that the board of directors of the PGMOL are representative of the Football League, the Premier League, and the FA. And that gives, to some degree, an impartiality, to some degree, for the PGMOL general manager, the boss of, to actually be able to say at those board meetings, I have this problem, this is how I intend to address it, and please comment. And I can tell you, if you go with a firm plan, really a firm plan, you know, we had mass confrontation. I went, discussed it with the board and said, this is a problem that is increasing in the game, out of which the discussion was, we will fine the teams up to £250,000. We will invest in a season-long campaign of get on with the game, get on with the referee, get on with each other. That will appear around the perimeter boards, right? The FA at that meeting said, we will support the referees. I was able to go back to the referees and say, look, let's stop patting around and being nicey-nicey. Some of you need to gain a little bit of aggression. And I think we've got this undercurrent of failing to manage effectively through changing the style of body language and changing the tone of voice and making use of the captain. So the scenario is, if you take a firm grip as a referee and you say to that player, I want an improvement in your behavior, and that is with the captain present, and it's not forthcoming, you then hammer that player. And I can tell you, years ago, before all that, and before the PGMOL, this problem started to grow. And the consequence, lost you there for a minute. And the consequence of the process before the PGMOL, I can remember Peter Willis, a Northeast referee and a very strong referee. A wall came to him dissenting, 5 in the wall, and all 5, Errol, received a yellow card instantly. He put it up, he held it high and went, you. And I'll tell you, for the remainder of that game, and as a referee, he didn't get much dissent in games. He was seen as tough.
You think that would happen with the Premier League? And the players, some, no, not all, some of the players. There are constant misbehavior by certain players in the Premier League who are very high profile, and they're getting away with it.
Correct.
Now, it would appear to the ordinary man in the street that the referees are afraid of the high profile of these particular players and the consequences of dealing with that player. I mean, Keith, I've seen it even. Andre Mariner did, what game did he do? I was looking. Can't remember now in the week. Yeah. But it was a clear case of dishing out punishment, but he still wouldn't do it until he went to the VAR. Okay, fine. He goes to the VAR, the camera's behind his head, and you can see players literally within a meter or two of him, which they're not supposed to do. And I think, my belief, they're only doing it because they know they'll get away with it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, at this moment in time, I think that Howard Webber's got a lot on his plate. There's no question. I think he's got to sort out the referees. I have to say that in the last couple of weeks, I've seen 1 or 2 changes. Those changes, Errol, have been magnified on the field of play by the movement and positioning of the referees and the patrol path. And I think there's guidance going into saying, I want more physical effort. I want closer proximity to play. I think now what he's got to do is he's got to get his referees together and say, look, there is a line in the sand. There is a barometer that he can set as to what is acceptable within the laws of the game and which is not. Because what we've got at the moment is we've got open dissent individually. We've got group mobbing of the referee. We are seeing when a referee goes to the monitor, and the law, the IFAB protocol is very clear. Players do not have to go to the monitor and argue the point. The referee's got to be allowed to do his job on his own. The other aspect is feigning injury. And this is another aspect of the game that's coming together now. And it's no wonder, you know, I remind our listeners, 3 games in the Premier League last year had 45 minutes of actual playing time. And the average is 55. And what we're seeing is disruption. Disruption that is tactically there, put in by the managers and coaches on the basis of the team that we're playing. If we give them the chance and opportunity to play for a longer period, their chances of scoring improve. Therefore, I want you to do these stopping procedures. I want you to take your time at goal kicks. I want you to hold onto the ball as long as possible. Don't worry, because we ain't got a referee in the Premier League that applies 6 seconds. We don't see
nail
that.
on the head there. Now that's part of the problem, that they know, the players know, the managers know, that the coaching staff know, anyone involved in the game, they know that the referees. Look, we're talking about the Premier League. It could be in other leagues as well. So let's be clear.
No, it's happening. It's happening in other leagues, though.
Yeah. And they know that the referees are not strong enough to enforce the 6-second rule.
Yes.
A part of the law. And if they don't, why don't they add it on at the end like they did in the World Cup? I know you're going to have 10, 11, 12 minutes. Yeah. So what? And in that 10, 11, 12 minutes, maybe the team that's wasting the time has a goal scored against them to show that they didn't benefit by all their time wasting. But time wasting is a cautionable offence, Keith.
Yes. I mean, look, I mean, the ultimate aim
you and
is
I are singing off the same hymn.
Yeah, I mean, we
just teasing it out.
What takes precedence here is that the referee is like the conductor with the baton in his hand, and he can set the tempo. And what he has to do is he's got his foot on the accelerator. And if he gets the game and the flow of the game is good, and the stoppages are a small number, and the game flow is good, that's a better, more enjoyable game. Yeah. What we're seeing is we're seeing like feigning injury. We're seeing players going to ground looking for penalty kicks.
Yeah.
We're seeing, I think there was one game this weekend where there was a shoulder into the back of an opponent inside the penalty area, right? There was a comment in the media, the guy doing the commentating or one of the pundits said, "Oh, that's shoulder to shoulder." And I'm going, what? He's absolutely bowled him over. And it's a clear penalty kick. I think that was in the Brighton-Bournemouth game. And it wasn't shoulder to shoulder. It was shoulder into the back. That's a foul. That's a penalty kick.
Yeah.
So, I don't think those are subjective decisions at all. I think that's an offence for which a penalty kick should be awarded.
Just on that then, Keith, didn't the VAR indicate or inform the referee you better have a look at that because it was in the penalty area?
I think one of the changes that might be to the betterment, I don't know, but I think that one of the changes coming in here is that Howard operated very successfully VAR in the MLS. I think he's come in and said, maybe, I'm guessing, the bar is too low, that your interference level as VAR is too low. You're coming in too often. I only want clear and obvious errors, those that absolutely stand out, for you to come in. Now, I think that you get the reverse reaction then. You get guys who fall asleep and decide, I don't need to come in. VAR is the safety net that should get, at the end of the day, the decision correct. I cannot believe our VAR can say that wasn't a foul. And I think to myself, wow, that's a penalty. The manager's was going berserk, rightly so, because he should have had a penalty kick and he didn't. And it impacted on the game, whereas you've got other instances that occur where they say, well, it doesn't matter. It's only a small thing, but it isn't. And I think that, if you look at
the game,
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't like pointing a player out, but I will. If you're refereeing Manchester City and you've got Jack Grealish playing, if you're not prepared for what is Jack Grealish's mode of operation, and you are not on your job, on the game, you will miss offences on Grealish. You will miss them where he is genuinely fouled. And at the same time, if you haven't got that level of concentration and proximity to play, you will miss his acts of diving, his acts of simulation. This is a player who loves to go to ground, some of it because he's been fouled, in fairness to him, but on the odd occasion, he pulls one out of the bag and the referee buys it. This is the art of refereeing, isn't it? It's understanding the players, managing the game effectively. And, I think you and I at times recognise that we had to be aggressive when we were refereeing. If the game was going away of us, there were some players who wouldn't accept a nice approach. You had to bring in a building site mentality. Bark and bite in order to get your message across.
Yeah.
But I think referees are making the life too difficult because I think that they're going in thinking, I've got to miss the nice guy and I've got to get out of this game reasonably well because I might have them again in a couple of months' time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care. I'll tell you what, the reason the reason teams and countries like Pierluigi Collina was he wasn't a soft touch as a referee. It could be Mr. Nice Guy, but at the same time, he could, through the stare of his eyes and his body language, be aggressive.
So wouldn't you think then that other referees would learn from that?
Yes.
And not necessarily to copy him, but just his general way of refereeing, that you sometimes have to be aggressive. Now, there's nobody has a stare like Pierluigi Collina, but sometimes you have to be show that side of you that's aggressive.
Well, I mean,
maybe that's the wrong
absolutely.
word. Wrong,
I mean,
and not give in to this nonsense that some of these players get up to.
Well, if we agree that Ferrari's got a good car and it goes at reasonable pace, right? Then what Ford Motor Company want to do is to give it not an exact look, but they want to actually say, right, okay, we'll do things that bring our car standard closer to Ferrari. Now, that gap might be a chasm, as it probably is.
Yeah.
But if we take refereeing, I benchmark Collina. That is why we finish up with Howard Webb and Clattenburg and Halsey and other referees, young Oliver in his informative years, because I did the presentations on body language, how to be neutral, how to communicate, how to enhance presence. And therefore, all those aspects are that when you actually look at communication, which is the art of refereeing, 55% of the way you communicate with people is through body language, non-verbal. Only 7% of communication verbally hits the spot.
Yeah.
So this is why the mix in refereeing is that you have to, if you want to get to the elite level, you have to start to study things like sports psychology in how to deal with situations. But at the same time, if you're a weak referee, and I suggest that the referees who reach the elite level in Europe and around the world are not weak referees. They've got there for a reason, because they're good at determining and decision-making the laws of the game and also managing individuals. And I think at the moment there's too many referees. They're getting the badge with, the FIFA badge without really working for it in England.
Yeah.
And you suddenly you look at the list of FIFA recipients now and you go, crikey me, how's he's been on 6 weeks and he gets a badge. I'm exaggerating.
Next question, and one I noticed, Robert Jones. I don't know, was he refereeing last year?
Yes.
Maybe he was, but I mean, he's not a wet day in the Premier League. And I see the other day he's wearing a FIFA badge. Now, is that some sort of ploy to give guys, it used to be, and it's my opinion only, that Mike Riley was trying to have as many guys at FIFA level as possible. He would give them, say, a 3-year stint, and then they'd come off and bring another guys on.
Yeah.
What is the purpose in that?
None. Let me tell you, and I think it's proven. As I understand it, I watched David Coote a week ago. No FIFA badge. So he'd been on FIFA less than a couple of 3 years. Not a long time.
Yeah.
When I was the boss, we had the opportunity to put 10 male referees onto the FIFA list panel.
Yeah.
And I had long discussions with the FA to say, this is a standard that is expected in Europe, and we do not. This is the standard that is being built by referees from England and other countries. But I said, only when we consider and discuss the referees will the nomination go forward. And I think I operated for most of the period with 6 referees who were pretty established in terms of
and you've got
position.
to be obviously the standard, But
yes.
they're giving them out just to make up the numbers sometimes.
No, well, I mean they're filling the slots, and
they're filling the quota.
I don't see the point.
I had the same problem in South Africa. They wanted 10 guys on. I think 10 is we're talking male referees now. It's a different story with the ladies.
Yes.
But they just wanted to fill the numbers. I said, why do you want to put these guys in? They're not good enough. And they're going to go out because they've got the badge. They're going to go out, they're going to get a game, and they're going to fail. And they'll never get another game. And all you're doing is getting a bad reputation for the country with the FIFA referees. I'd rather, like you said, have 5 or 6 good guys who'll get game after game after game, instead of putting out guys who are not, they shouldn't even be up to Premier League level, but yet they were pushed up there, and suddenly they're getting FIFA badges. I mean,
I think
you had to be 5 years on the Premier League before you even qualified for FIFA list.
And I believe that should be the case. We've got. I look at our FIFA list currently, and I believe genuinely that Oliver and Taylor, who are on the UEFA elite list, fully deserve their position. They've worked for it. I think there are times when I've been critical of both, because I think at times they've been too weak and don't put in the level of motivation, movement, and positioning and all that goes with it, exposing themselves to error in that sense. But then I go down and I look and I think, who's the next Taylor? Who's the next Oliver in the group? I think that I'm beginning to think that Darren England is a referee that seems at the moment to be maturing as an individual, working hard. But when I look at his career, he spent some time on the line as an assistant referee and got to the international level and spent a number of years as a FIFA assistant referee. He then decided, this is not for me, I want to be a referee. And he went back to the Football League, and I think he's come onto the list now as a mature referee with a good, solid foundation for which he can build, and a knowledge of what it means when you go overseas and all that goes. If you're going overseas just for the trip, 3 days holiday, with the wrong attitude, then you're ruining the reputation of those that were there before. And, you know, I mean, I had 10 years on FIFA. I think Oliver and Taylor will go for that length of period. I look at Craig Pawson, and I see a degree of improvement in recent weeks, but he's not fulfilling the full potential of a FIFA referee. I don't suddenly go, wow, what a performance. You know, he's a follower, not a leader. You know, he ain't got the baton. He might be standing there as the conductor of an orchestra, but the baton's not used sensibly. So I do think benchmarking against Kalina is one of the moves. You know, there are other referees that you can do that, but I think in England at the moment we're still on the very early stages of Howard being in charge, and I've every hope that he will get it right.
That was my next one. How do you think he'll do? I know he's only a short time in the job, and is he actually in control now? Is Riley gone?
Well, I think, as I understand it, Riley's still there. So that's not the ideal situation.
No.
But Howard's got a very clear brief. He's already appeared on television.
I saw that video, Keith, and I just felt he had become very political.
Yes.
He'd gone from the refereeing side to the politician side.
Correct.
And I noticed that about Colina as well. I mean,
Yes.
when he was refereeing, he was strong, he was assertive and so on. But then when I see he's moved over to head of the referees, he's now a different person.
Yes, he is.
It's almost as if he's softened his approach in that he's gone into the political side and become very political. And you know, politicians like as well.
I think,
and I was a little bit disappointed with Howard. Now, he's very articulate, well spoken, answered the questions fully and extensively. But I just thought I saw that politician side of it coming out.
Well, I think that is probably due to his spell in America, knowing how the media operates in the States and how he has got involved in America, particularly initially with VAR, where he was going around the clubs, communicating with all sets of the media. I think he's come in. He's got to establish his position of strength. You know, the first thing is he has been away, so he's not suddenly becoming a referee and then boss of the referees like Riley. He's got a gap in between. He's got to come in, and I think he's got to be a fresh pair of eyes. I think there's been a lack of communication from the PGMOL, pointing out strategies and aims and all that goes with the job. I think he will be measured not by what he does talking to the clubs and the managers, but how he creates a cadre of world-class referees. Because what he's got to do is he's got to get into a very strong succession plan that says these are the targets that are 5 years down the line that are likely to come through. I mean, that's what I did. I mean, 5 years out, I selected Webb and Clattenburg. There were, Clattenburg wasn't even on the Football League at that particular time. Webb was just beginning to get on the Football League. And I targeted those guys and had them very carefully managed, with assessors going in and offering advice, watching them very carefully, then bringing them into meetings in order, but then sitting across the table and saying to them, what are your aspirations? And I think I can remember Howard saying, I just want to be a really good Football League referee. And I said, Howard, you're much better than that. You can be a world-class referee. And the same with Clattenburg. Clattenburg was an outstanding, you didn't need a massive skill set to determine him. I can remember seeing him in a reserve game at Hillsborough, sat with a friend. And I just went, wow, this kid's got it. And I rang George Courtney in the Northeast because that's where Clattenburg came from. And I said, George, I've seen a young referee tonight and I'm really impressed. And he went, Mark Clattenburg? So here was George Courtney, a very experienced referee, and myself saying the same thing, that this guy had potential. That's one thing. What you've got to do is get them through and deliver it, you know, and I think that then they have to recognize that every game that they officiate is a cup final because they don't know who's watching them. And I just think that sometimes, as I've said in the past, the referees have been playing the numbers.
I'd love to have him on the show. I doubt if he'll come on since he's sort of he is now the boss of the PGMOL. But I don't know. With you, of course, I'd love to have him on with you. Maybe you can suss it out and see if it's possible. If it is great. If it's not, well, that's the way things go. Keith, lovely talking to you again.
Pleasure.
Thank you very, very much for coming on the show. We'll do it all again next Monday.
Take care. Thanks, Al.
Thank you all for watching as well. Please keep your comments coming in and I will reply to them. Good night and God bless. Thank you.